How are we doing today, Chicago Cubs fans? And we are back with another edition of Cubs Daily. Let's hop right into it. The Cubs fall in extra innings yesterday, 4-3 in a very well-played ball game. I will say this, there was a tough series versus the Tigers, and we go right back at it with a tough series against the Phillies. We faced Skubal on Friday. We faced Zach Wheeler yesterday. And on this Friday, we're going to be facing Paul Skeens. So truly a gauntlet of ace starting pitchers the Cubs are facing this week. And I'm going to say they battled Zach Wheeler really, really well. They raised that pitch count up. They got to, I know he went 6 innings. Kyle Tucker was able to hit a home run in the first inning, but they weren't really able to muster much off of him after that. It was a great defensive game played by both sides. Big time pitches to get big time outs when each pitcher was in a jam. Matt Boyd pitched excellent. I really can't complain about how he's been pitching for this team, especially as the 4th or 5th starter. Just unfortunately, the bullpen was stretched really, really thin. When I was watching the game at work yesterday, and the Phillies just kept bringing in reliever after reliever, and each reliever, besides the last two, they had a sub-4 ERA or a sub-3 ERA, and I'm like, wow, these guys are just experienced quality pitchers. So the Cubs just couldn't do enough. Obviously, there was some in a game like that, 4-3. There's always something different you could have done that might have led to a different outcome, but unfortunately, it just did not work that way. Danny Palencia, he was able to escape a tremendous jam in the bottom of the 10th. Unfortunately, they overwhelmed him in the bottom of the 11th. I still think Palencia pitched okay. I didn't think he pitched bad. I thought the rest of the bullpen did a very, very solid job as well. Ian Happ with a big swing of the bat to tie that game up and force extra innings. Because when extra innings happens, right, the California runner starts on second. All you really guys have to technically do, I mean, it's easier said than done, obviously, is get that runner over to third with an out. Sac fly, he's in. It should be that easy, right? But neither team scored in the 10th. Cubs were able to get a clutch hit from PCA in the 11th. But then the Phillies just, JT Realmuto ripped right down the right field line to tie the game immediately, and then the wheels fell off. Again, the Cubs have had one of the best bullpens in all of baseball since the late portion of April and mid-May. Again, you're not going to be able to stop every game from every run. Does this team need pitching still? Absolutely. I don't think you could ever have enough pitching on a team. The team that has enough pitching generally wins the World Series. But we don't know that until they've won the World Series, right? It's just the way the game is played. So yes, unfortunately the Cubs did fall 4-3 yesterday in extras, but it was a well-fought game, and I think they can bounce back again today because they're not facing Zach Wheeler. And we'll preview that here in a moment, but I want to talk about how the Cubs are still making solid contact on the baseball, right? They are still squaring up the ball. It's just going right at people. It's hard-hit baseballs. They're just unlucky. And generally speaking, when you hit the ball hard, 7 to 8 times out of 10, it's going to find grass somewhere. So last night, and honestly this previous weekend, the Cubs have just, the bats have just gone, a little bit colder than we are accustomed to seeing. But no baseball team has just absolutely dominated throughout the whole entire season, offensively speaking. So the bats will pick up again. I am not concerned about it at all. But you got to find a way to win these low-scoring baseball games. And unfortunately, it just didn't happen last night. But we can bounce back tonight. We'll preview that here in a moment. But the Cubs are squaring up the baseball. They're hitting it hard. They're getting their opportunities. And honestly, that's all you can truly ask for from a really good baseball team. So I'm excited to continue to watch this team continue to play and develop. Now, speaking of we need pitching, there's another rumor going around, right? We've talked about Zach Gallen. We've talked about Framber Valdez. I think that was the least likely rumor I've really heard. Sandy Alcantara is a big rumor that I've been listening to. And that's kind of another one, there's a lot of mixed emotions on that. Obviously he's having a struggling year down in Miami. People don't want to give up too much from him. Now, the guy I'm about to mention, Chris Sale, is probably the best blend of both. I would say he's the best blend of short-term fix and probably the cheapest for the Cubs to get because he's so old and he has one more year of control. But unfortunately, I am not wowed by this move. Chris Sale, we could trade for him. He'll do the job. We'll get to the playoffs. He could serve for a win or two. but he's not really solving. He's kind of delaying the inevitable. He's like Aaron Rodgers going to the Steelers. We need to find a frontline ace. And I would much rather the Cubs trade for a frontline ace, especially since we have guys in the minor leagues who are ready to come to the big leagues, but we don't have a place for them in the outfield or the infield. So, unless we can get Chris Sale for an absolute steal of a price and the Braves just want to unload him because they're out of it, I'm not truly personally interested in Chris Sale. But, again, for the right price, I'm interested in a lot of people. I just don't want to give up too much from, because we're only going to get this half year and maybe another year. And honestly, he's already 38 years old. So next year is not guaranteed to be a solid year at all from him. Because again, when you're an older pitcher, you can obviously flash the brilliance. But every once in a while, you are definitely going to give up some big games, because that's just the way baseball has gone. That's what I've seen in my life from pretty much top to bottom on that front. So, I think Chris Sale is the second most realistic target the Cubs could trade for. I think it's him and Sandy Alcantara. I think Sandy Alcantara is going to have a higher price tag because he's younger and there's a lot more potential to be had. But I think Sandy could potentially be what the Cubs truly, truly need. I think Chris Sale's more like a Band-Aid on the situation. I don't think he necessarily fixes all of our problems. I don't think trading for him wins us a World Series. I possibly think Sandy Alcantara could, if we could fix him, that could potentially win us a World Series more. Or maybe if the price is right, we get them both, right? I think both are an awesome option to get. But, again, I think Chris Sale's more of a Band-Aid. I think Sandy is more of a long-term problem solver. Sandy or Gallen or Merrill Kelly, those are the type of guys that I would be definitely looking to focus more on if I were the Cubs. But Chris Sale is a rumor. Chris Sale is a big-time name. He has been a big-time pitcher in this league for a long time. So I wouldn't be opposed to getting Chris Sale. Like I said, I just think he's more of a short-term fix. I don't know if he solves all the Cubs pitching problems, Because the Cubs still need to trade for a big arm in the bullpen, a big leverage inning arm, etc., because they need to get outs. The bullpen has pitched much better. Do not deny it. But if we go and get that back-end closer, everybody else will fall in line, and I think it will really, really help this team excel, right? Like in 2015, 2016, right, we had Hector Rondon. He was solid. Hector Rondon did the job, but we traded for Aroldis Chapman. And then Hector Rondon fell in line, right? Like, he was much more averse to playing the role we needed him to play. So, those are my thoughts on Chris Sale. I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below. Should we trade for Chris Sale? What would you give up for Chris Sale? Etc. Let me know. Now, Game 2, we are back at it tonight, 5:45 Central Time. We got Colin Ray going on the mound. Colin Ray is another one of those signings that has been absolutely fantastic for us. I'm hoping he can continue that trend tonight. The Cubs, I believe, are going against Mick Abel. He's 0-1 with a 7-something ERA. Not a lot of starting experience this year. Hopefully, the Cubs offense can come out and explode, release some of those demons, those frustrations that the team has been facing over the past few days. Because, again, we've been hitting the ball hard. Unfortunately, it's just been right at people. I want to say over the past 4 games, we've had, 6 or 7 warning track shots? Now, warning track shots are not home runs, but that means you're really close to hitting a home run. Like, you got to think of it like that. Yeah, it didn't go out of the ballpark, but, man, if you adjust your swing just a minor bit or, something of that nature, that ball is leaving the yard in a big, big way. So, Game 2 tonight, 5:45. Cubs can hopefully even up the series and go for the series win tomorrow. So, excited to watch the team play tonight. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.